Chapter 31. Without privacy, there was no point in being an individual. Jonathan Franzen. I was right about driving at night. There were occasional trucks that had to pass me because I drove so slow, but they blinked thank yous at me when I'd high beam them to say it was clear to come back in front of me. A couple of Toyota Utes, that kind of thing. Nothing sus. In one small town, there was a young male standing out the front filming with his phone, and he had his arm out in front of the camera. This was probably to film me as I whizzed past. I wouldn't put it past him to believe that the arm was meant to be fisting me or some shit. No young males were to be trusted anymore. They'd all been radicalised by the manosphere. They all wanted to exact this sick revenge on me. I played music so loud and it sounded so good. Just CDs burned with albums from decades ago that I used to own. It was an early 2000s time warp. Because of the absence of music in my life, no Spotify, no YouTube, no reception as I drove to limit the tracking. None of my playlists was suitable anymore anyway. It contained so much trap and drill. Wannabe gangsters were now my enemy. Though dated, this music was literal music to my ears. It slapped. I was so excited and loving it. I was free for a little while. I got out at one truck pullover area and walked around admiring the stars. When cars came past, I hid, but not many did. I finally got to primal scream my anger that this was happening to me. It went a little something like this. You motherfuckers can't touch me. I decide how I'm going out. You have no power. I'm a woman and I'm smarter and better than you. We are the natural rulers. You are incomplete chromosomes. You will not win. And then softer because I'd hurt my vocal cords with the strain. We are going home. It's time to go home. I think I meant my home planet. I had suspicions that I was an alien, a good alien, and bad aliens were the ones hunting me. It was delusions of grandeur, but I couldn't understand why they targeted me with such a large-scale project that would have cost them millions. I had to be an actual threat to someone. Being an alien was as good a theory as any in this other dimension that I was possibly living in. I had reason to believe in aliens in other dimensions. I'd encountered the phenomenon before. I threw out my THC oil in case the cops searched my van. Otherwise, I loved feeling alive and normal on this drive. I made it to a truck stop west of Beach Town about 3 a.m. that morning. There was nothing suspicious at first. I put my out loud phone that I'd bought off the Trattorias Indians under my wheel with a bit of wood and crushed it. This was necessary because I couldn't get the SIM card out. I dropped the phone into a storm drain. No phone now. I searched for Handmaid's Tale in audiobook form from the selection in the truck stop for technology-challenged truckies who still use CDs. It wasn't there, but I bought another Margaret Atwood audiobook. Mad Adam from the Servo. The male behind the counter was cold to me. Fuck them all. I lay in the cab instead of the back. I decided it was the safest place to be. I could see if anyone tried to fuck with my van. I didn't really sleep, but when I decided to peek out from all the material I put up around the cabin windows, it was a literal nightmare out there. The car park was absolutely jam-packed with tradies and other male workers. From my position behind the handmade curtains, I watched some tradie pricks all standing around their ute laughing. One of them pretended to put something under the chassis of the ute. I knew that he was joking about putting a tracking device under my van. What I would have given for a Gatling gun on the roof of the van. Fucking rapists. I'd never thought of that. I had to get out of the van and I felt so on show. Every one of those pieces of shit looking at me, laughing about me. As those 4 tradies drove out in front of me, I pretended to film them on my GoPro. They didn't look at me, they just looked guilty. This was a hellish decision to come to the coast. I was still determined to get to the ocean. To swim. It was like a dying wish. Traffic was ridiculously heavy to the Hayden Bridge, but it always is. Still, I resented all the cars around me. Greedy monsters. I was going to drive to Umpinpin, the quiet beach town that I'd house sat at. The reason for this was it was a small town. If there were trackers there, they'd stand out like dog's balls. In my opinion, they were actual dog's balls. Greedy, immoral scroats with chips on their shoulders. They were getting the little bit of joy in their joyless lives at my expense. Fuck them. I made it down to the Pin car park where I used to take the two spoilt Labradors that I was sitting. There was no one there and I almost felt like it was a trap. I ran down to the ocean and jumped in. A nice older boomer couple greeted me, not suspicious. I liked the swim, but I was exhausted and cold. I hadn't bought a towel in my haste. When I got to the car park, I got under the van and searched for location trackers. There was a gathering of old beach boomers nearby and they were all looking at me, talking about me. I guess I looked pretty weird. The guy who I house sat for, Theodore, came into the car park and got the labs out. He didn't go over and talk to the group like he usually would, like he had on the first morning that he showed me the dog walks. Instead, he hid down low beside his car. Well, this was a development. I suddenly realised that he was in on the experiment. It all became apparent to me, thoughts coming at speed in my exhausted but adrenaline-filled brain. Or they were being fed to me, who knows? The gay couple that happened to visit when I was there, the Aryan male, was behind it. I was so angry when I realised this. A voice in my head said, "Of course Theodore is part of it. The guy is Jewish." So yes, this car park contained a trap indeed. I couldn't believe that nice couple were a part of it. I hope Barbara was ignorant to it. It was just cooked up between the Aryan and Theodore. What an unlikely pairing. But Barbara had mentioned that the gay couple had converted to Judaism. I was sure Barbara wouldn't be in on it. She wouldn't allow someone as evil as me to live in her house and look after the precious dogs. Theodore, on the other hand, maybe he had debts. Either way, he was the evil one in this scenario, not me. Fuck, I just drove out of the car park and didn't look his way. Let the coward hide. I went to the public beach and life-saving club. A Polynesian-looking young male with heaps of neck tats, fully gangster-looking, was strumming a guitar in the back of his ute. I knew this was a ruse to gain my trust and get me to talk to him. I avoided him. I got down the beach and it was fucking glorious while it lasted. People came down on the beach to walk dogs and they weren't sus, but they still interfered with my peace. I went back and opened up the back of the van to sit and drink Coke and have a smoke. I really wasn't looking after myself. The poly guy, he turned out to be Filipino, struck up a conversation with me. I thought, fuck it, I'll bite. I told him about the Garag National Park that was good to camp in. He told me that he felt like there was a dark spirit in the place and that there'd been a massacre there. He said he wasn't Indigenous, but I made him feel validated by saying, "You're First Nations, so you can probably feel that kind of thing." I said that I was a bit too diluted to feel that kind of thing. I felt like he was blaming me for being part of the colonial murderers. The phrase, "I'm too diluted," rang around in my head. He took his leave and his girlfriend showed up. She'd been waiting behind my van door near his ute. She hadn't wanted to come to talk to me. This was defo a trap to get me to talk to the attractive young dude and for them to shout bingo on their fucking scorecards. They packed up a picnic and walked off, laughing all the while. At me, no doubt. I was not afforded basic courtesy, friendliness, anonymity. So many people came to the park. Workmen, of course. They've got fucking time on their hands to bludge and play human Pokemon or watch porn in my vicinity, whatever the fuck they were doing. I lay in the back of the van trying to sleep. My mind went wild. Again, I wanted some confrontation, some kidnappers to try and chance it with me, since there were so many people now after me. I begged Billy to get it over with. I was so nervous that I took a very large shit in my toilet bucket. It was an emptying of bowels by the very terrified. I didn't care anymore. Billy said it was all organised and I just had to get out of the van with my machete. I concealed it in a bag, dressed in a Jackie Howe jeans and boots and got ready for come what may. In the car park, there was a skip male with long blonde hair and a ponytail, boots and studded belt leaning against a family car. He was talking to another woman in a family car with a male in the passenger seat and kids in the back. She had her engine running. I assumed that they were pretending not to know each other, but actually did. He was probably a bikie. This was the setup that Billy had organised for me. I sat in the driver's seat, smoked a ciggy and just watched them. He got frustrated with posing after a while, leaned up against his car and tried to look attractive. Like I'd find a male that looked like that attractive. He walked over the road and put his ciggy butt in the bin and took off. Damn, he wasn't game to kidnap me. The woman kept staring. I said out loud, "That's not fair on your kids. The poor things." I don't think she heard. Suddenly the male got out of the car and approached me. He sounded and looked like he was intellectually impaired. "That's a nice van you've got," he slurred like the spastic that he was. "Don't come any closer, mate," I warned. He showed fake shock and surprise that I'd said this. "I just don't like your vibe." Sorry about the disability slur, but he was a monster and deserves no PC from me. During that time, 2 other males in fuckwit trucks zoomed into the car park, drove near my van and took off again. Desperados clocking up the cash. I decided to roll. I was going to call my brother in Tofton and ask if I could go there. I was going to tell him the whole story, I decided. Ordinarily, he'd be the last person I'd call on. His wife didn't like me and there was a fair chance he'd say no because of this. He didn't like me much either. But I knew the family code meant we had to look out for each other or else all those problems swept under the rug would come out. I didn't know how I'd cope with his rejection if I got it though. There was such a huge line of traffic coming into Unpinpin because of me.